guys, welcome back to Two Bowls of Guac, the Surrounded podcast. We are so glad that you guys have chosen to be back with us. We're back at the table this time. We have tried a couple different places, but we are here at the table. We have decided that this is where we're going to reside.
So much better.
For now. This could change.
It will probably change.
It will more than likely change. Per usual, as Surrounded does this.
I like the table, but...
Yeah, this is a surrounded table.
Anywhere we go is a vibe, right?
Yes.
So we are the vibe.
We are the vibe. We bring the vibe with us.
Christ is the vibe.
Well, there we go.
We bring the Christ vibe.
And into the podcast.
As everybody can see, I'm here with two people from our Surrounded lead team, Luke and Sarah. Say what up to the people.
What up, people?
Yeah, we are here. We're back. We're ready to rock and roll. I'm super excited for today. We are continuing our series on mental health. Now, we are not necessarily talking about like how to necessarily combat mental health. We're telling stories. We're talking about things that have happened specifically to us, as well as other people that we bring on the podcast, and just personal journey with ailments that we've dealt with, and the journeys that God has brought us on, and the effect that has on our mental health, and how God has brought us through that, or is still bringing us through that. So today, we're going to be specifically talking about physical health issues. That is why we have our friend Sarah here today. Yes. Sarah, you're gonna tell your story here in a minute, but you have a long story with multiple different things that God's kind of thrown at you, and it's something that Luke or I couldn't really fully wrap our minds around. And so I'm excited for people to hear the story. I think your story is extremely impactful, and so just to see what God has done in your life, even with all of the garbage that you've dealt with in your young life. Because you're how old?
22.
22. You're 22. You are 15.
Okay.
19. Just kidding. You are 19. I'm 24. I am the eldest here. Let's go.
Y'all
Let's
heard that?
go. This is the first podcast that I'm the grandpa on. First one.
Really?
First one.
And you're proud of
that?
Okay.
Yes, I am. I feel really good about it.
There's been two.
Yep.
He said Kristen and Ben are older than me. Write this down.
Hey, we talked about it in last week's podcast, and I'm just saying. But I feel old. Like my back hurts a little bit. Like I'm feeling the elder. The elder feelings at this.
I will never be the oldest. I'm always the youngin.
Yeah, you're always the youngin, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You bring the party.
Yeah.
Luke does bring the party.
I bring the parties.
Yeah. You bring
plural.
the parties.
Yeah, it's plural.
You bring all of the parties.
Every single one of them.
I love that for you. Well, let's jump into our first segment, known as First Things First. I want to talk about something today, which is really, really random, but it's just fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
There's this place in Tampa, Florida called Amateur Works. It is the coolest place I think I've ever been. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's as close as you can get to. My wife and I went to Boston last year, and we went to these two different food halls. One is called High Street Food Hall or something like that, and then the other one is called Faneuil Hall, which is the more famous one. And I didn't think that the South could come anywhere close to that, and it's pretty darn close. Like, it's just a cool vibe. It's awesome. And I got coffee at this place called Buddy's Coffee. Dude, place is insane. Place is nuts. Have you been there?
I think so. Buddy's brewery. Not brewery.
No.
Buddy Brew. It's like something like that.
Buddy Brew. Yes, that's what it is. Buddy Brew. Yes.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's very, very good. You work in Tampa.
Yes.
You work. Are you allowed to say where you work?
I mean, I guess now.
Yeah. Where do you work?
I work at the United Soccer League.
Whoa.
Headquarters.
That's huge.
Whoa, that's massive. So you're rich.
That's super cool.
Right, yeah, no. I actually, my driver is waiting for me outside, so.
Yeah.
You mean your Uber that you paid for?
His name is Ben.
His name is
Mom.
Ben.
1 second.
How long have you worked there at this point?
Since October.
Awesome.
November, December, January, February, 4 months.
Sweet. And you're traveling every day from Lakeland to Tampa.
Yeah.
Like you got off work today, drove here, and you're fresh off work.
Yeah. So it's like a 40-minute drive without traffic.
Right.
Rush hour traffic, it's like an hour and a half, and it's a stressful hour and a half. But
yeah,
had to do a lot of praying on the way here because I
Let's
was like,
go.
God, I cannot bring this energy from the interstate to surrounded worship. So
You don't want my interstate energy anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely not.
All the people that watch us from like Central Florida know what it's like to drive on I-4.
I-4 and 275.
Oh, 275 is absolutely terrible.
You know,
It's so
I-4
bad.
will make me angry without fail. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of what's going
It's like
on.
Walmart.
It's horrible. Oh my gosh. That's a very good comparison.
Yeah, that's very good actually.
That's a really good, oh my gosh, I just got repulsed even more. Yeah, I can't.
I used to honestly love Walmart. Like it used to be like one of the places that I just like go
Mm-hmm.
just to like because everything
Eat?
is there. No.
It
was like-
be at Walmart.
You just see me like just standing in the middle of a Walmart aisle and I'm just like standing there and they're like, "Oh wow, he'd be in Walmart." He'd just be there. But yeah, no, driving on I-4 is horrible. It's one of the reasons why Savannah and I were celebrating our anniversary because she had to work on our anniversary, and so that's why we went to Tampa instead of Orlando because getting to Orlando on I-4 is
Worse.
way worse.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I think technically Orlando is closer to us than Tampa. I think.
I guess it depends where you are in
I guess that's
Lakeland.
true.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're pretty like the center of Lakeland is pretty much the center in between the
Yeah,
two.
that's true. I guess it's like literally the same distance, but it's crazy how even though we are so close to both places, it's insane that even with traffic you can get to Tampa in an hour and a half, and with traffic it takes you 2.5 hours to get to Orlando.
Yeah.
And not even Orlando, like where like UCF is.
Yeah,
Like
no.
Disney Orlando, it takes you 2.5 hours, which is just dumb.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. So basically, all of that to say, everyone needs to go to Tampa and go to Amateur Works and
Pretty
get
much.
Buddy Brew.
Yep.
It's insane. I didn't know what to get, and so I asked this lady. I was like, I want cold brew, but like I don't know what to put in it because I don't know how good your cold brew is. Some people's cold brew is terrible because it tastes like they grilled the beans and then put them in the microwave and then grilled them again, and then they made the cold brew with that.
So you
it just-
don't like Starbucks Nitro Cold Brew, is what
Correct.
you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So it tastes, it's just nasty. And so you have to like put a bunch of like, stuff in it and then you just don't taste coffee. And she was like, I got you. And she made me this insane, it was cold brew, pump of mocha, pump of caramel with some brown sugar cinnamon on top. It was insane. I would drink that every single morning and would pay for it every single morning and wouldn't care. It was literally that good.
You should tell your wife that.
Tell my wife that I would pay for it every single day. She's gonna watch this podcast and she's gonna be like, "No, you're not," just like that.
Wow, that was a good impression. I'm so sorry, Savannah, but come on. You can't deny that one. That was pretty close.
Man, 2 years of marriage and I'm really honing in my impression of Savannah. I'm really narrowing it down. Oh, geez. Anyways, okay, so let's jump into the main thing, the main topic. So, Sarah, okay, we're
Yes.
obviously doing this series on mental health and the effects of other things on our mental health. You have had some journey through like multiple, I feel like many is dramatic, but multiple physical and mental issues.
Yes.
So I kind of want to just give you the floor to, and you can go from, when you found out about the first one all the way through now. You can work backwards. You can, however you
Okay.
want to walk through it, whatever you're comfortable doing. But yeah, go for it. Tell us a little
Okay.
bit about what your journey, throughout this, however long it's been.
So I was probably a junior in high school, and I just got I feel like junior year of high school is pretty hard. Like it's everybody's hardest year. But I was like really tired, like really, really tired. And granted, I was waking up 5 a.m. running 9 miles because I ran track and cross country for high school.
Mistake number one.
So
about
I
to
was
say
like,
gross.
Yeah,
you
don't
know,
do that. Do literally anything else.
I would come home and literally just sleep all day, like over the summer, right? Because I didn't have anything else to do. My mom was like, "That's not like, that's not right." I'm like, "No, I just ran this morning. I'm just really tired." And then she's like, "No, I think you need to go to the doctor." Thinking I'm like anemic or something, just need a couple medicines, a little iron or something.
Yeah.
But so I got some blood work done, and then it came back positive with ANA, which is basically I'm probably gonna say this wrong, but it's
okay.
basically like it detects like cell breakage almost.
Okay.
So anyway, it's seeing that good cells are being destroyed in my body. So it detected that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now that tells you have an autoimmune disorder. It doesn't tell you what autoimmune disorder, and there are many autoimmune immune disorders.
That was
you
my
can
next
have.
question is,
So
because I've only ever understood, like, if you have an autoimmune disorder, that's just what you have.
right.
I didn't know that there were
So,
multiple.
yes.
There's like
There
different
are.
like.
There's
what does
like
that mean?
lupus. There's like rheumatoid arthritis, which is not just like arthritis from getting old. It's like, you
But
know.
yeah, that's what I hear mostly about, or like
Yeah.
like one of the more common ones.
There's Sjogren's. There's, I think celiac is technically an autoimmune disorder. Anything
Okay.
autoimmune is like, it's not like immune, like you're going to get sick. It's like inside, you know, it's killing itself. It's your self autoimmune.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically your body just killing itself for no reason. So
wild.
like I am so thankful I don't have a diagnosis for my autoimmune disorder yet, because they do take years to diagnose.
Right.
But it's
Okay.
because it takes that long for like more symptoms to come on and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'm still positive for the ANA. I still have an autoimmune disorder, but I haven't been able to narrow it down, which is totally fine. It's frustrating, totally fine with me, because that means I don't have symptoms bad enough to be able to diagnose it, right? So I'm like, I'll manage the symptoms, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Junior year of high school, get diagnosed with that. I didn't tell like anybody, because I was like, you know, this can't be true. Like, I don't even know what this means. This, and it's not like when you think of being sick, you think of like, okay, I'll take some cold medicine and I'm going to take a nap. But I couldn't take enough naps. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then I eventually, like, I was just, running was so hard for me, and I loved running, and I was like doing okay with it when I first started. And it was so hard. I was so tired. My legs were burning. But then again, it's like, well, I'm running 9 miles. So like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be tired and my legs are going to, or
Yeah.
like we just did sprinting or hills for practice. Like my legs are burning.
Yeah.
So it's like hard to tell, like, was I, you know, sick or was I just running?
Yeah. You're just tired
Weird
from
middle
running.
ground. There's
yeah.
no way to tell.
So anyway,
interesting, yeah.
so just kept going on with that, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And then my mom's, you know, telling me about being gluten-free and like how diet can definitely help, all of that stuff, because if you think about inflammatory foods like gluten, and I could literally go on about that, but but you know,
But bread is so good.
no, it is
Pasta
so bad.
good.
Wheat is not even
But it's not that it's-
comparable to how it was when we first started eating. It does not have a single thing. It cannot live on its own anymore whatsoever. You have to have
But
pesticides.
it tastes good, Sarah.
No. Yes, actually, yes, it does.
Yeah, it tastes so
But no.
good. Like pasta.
Okay, yeah.
Pasta is so
See,
good.
and that's
I
the
love
thing. Is
pasta.
like my mom's are like gluten-free. But like, Mom, I'm having pasta dinner before meats. Like I simply cannot be gluten-free, right?
That's what I would
What are
say.
you
Yeah,
talking
I
about?
simply
I'm
cannot
sorry.
not eat gluten. Like, come on, carbs.
But-
Gotta have carbs before you run.
Here we
Right?
are now.
That's the thing.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so since then, it's just been a bunch of like handling that, whatever. And then I think the next thing, I really feel like I only have two big ailments, but then mental health is like also a big ailment, and
Yeah.
it just kind of like,
It all comes together.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and also stress, emotional well-being can definitely affect any ailments, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm just a stressed person. I wasn't as stressed in high school as I am now as an adult, but looking back at it now, I'm like, oh, I was like thinking about, you know, before races, I'm like, my stomach is upside down, which
Yeah.
it's like, I maybe had a little bit of anxiety back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so then I, you know, just a bunch of doctor's appointments, bunch of blood work. One time I had to get 15 vials of blood taken, which I
What?
my mom, I was like 16. My mom went with me, and we were like, just curious, how many vials is it? And she's like printing off the labels, and they're just coming. She's like counting. She goes, 15. Actually, she said 17 at first, but it really ended up being 15. And I just like immediately broke down, because I was like, oh my, that's a lot of blood.
That is a
Yeah.
lot. How
Yeah.
did you not pass out?
Okay, so I didn't, but also the lady that did it was not good at her job. And so I was laying down. I ran out of blood on one arm, and she stuck it wrong. So like when she
Nice.
pulls the needle out, I'm like bleeding.
Right.
And so I
Oh
have to
my
like, she's
goodness.
holding it. She does the other arm, like barely gets enough blood out of the other arm. And I had like bruises this big on my arms for weeks. I wore jackets to school every single day for weeks because I had bruises that big.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I've never had an experience like that ever again, thankfully. But
Yeah.
she was
That's rough.
She was really bad.
That is horrible.
That's rough.
Yes.
It's bad enough
But-
that you had to get 15 vials
Yeah, I
of
know.
blood.
And then they were bad at taking
Yeah.
15 vials of blood.
yeah, and then they're just like shoving a freaking needle down into your soul.
Yeah.
That is insane.
I wonder if they were just as nervous having to take all that blood out of you. I mean, like, honestly, I would
It
be.
was their first
She's
day.
like,
You just didn't
"That
know.
just makes perfect. You gotta do this one, girl.
You got you're getting a lot of practice right here.
All right, listen, I know it's your first day, but hey, at least you're
You
doing
gotta get thrown
15 of
into
them.
it.
Yeah, yeah. You can do 15 in a row. Like, just make it 12 good ones.
Oh man. Yeah, so craziness. But so yeah, then I get to like I'm still doing, like, looking back then, I'm like, I'm still doing fine. Like, I didn't feel fine. I didn't feel like I was doing fine, but compared to now, like, I would love to go back to then.
Is this still your
But-
junior year, or are you now getting into your senior
Well,
year?
now I'm talking about pretty much junior year when I was like diagnosed to like college,
Okay.
beginning of college,
Okay.
where I'm just in idle almost, like just dealing with symptoms, not like too bad. Just really noticed just extreme fatigue. It was so hard to stay awake, it made school so hard,
Yeah.
especially high school, waking up at 7 a.m., cross country practice, all of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then I was in college, and I remember the very first, these little episodes I had. The very first one I had was I was moving, like packing up my stuff. I moved from my house in Lakeland to an apartment at USF.
Okay.
So I was packing up all my stuff and, just getting things ready. And I had like this, it's so hard to describe, but such a weird feeling. And it just felt like so, like, not real, just so out of it. Anyway, I was like, that was really weird, and I was totally off after that. And then didn't really have them too often, and then I kept getting more and more of those feelings, and I was kind of like, I think they're panic attacks. Like, I think that's what I'm having, but I don't really know. I just Googled it, and I was like, okay, maybe these are panic attacks. And then I had a really bad semester. It was my second to last semester in college, and it was so hard for me. It was like, which is kind of funny because I'm a mass communication major. So like, I mean, how hard, it wasn't like science, but like writing papers and stuff, like researching, it was hard, and I hated doing that stuff. But
Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah, it was hard.
Me right now.
Literally, actually, you right now.
Yeah.
That's a different story. Anyways, it's Sarah's time.
Yeah, so really hard, and then I was so depressed because it was also this is not that quick little snippet that you asked for, but
Dude, go for
but
it.
here we are. Okay, so I was really depressed because it was after COVID. So like during kind of lockdown, I was with my roommates all the time, and we were having so much fun. We were just in the house, just having so much fun. And then we moved to a new apartment, and then things started opening up. So we had in-person classes. My other roommate was working. I was working, so I didn't see them anymore. So it's like we went from like all the time to like never at all, and I was just lonely, and I was having a really bad semester. Like, it was so hard, and I was so depressed. And I was like crying myself to sleep a lot at night. And then I kept waking up and having these same episodes. And I called my mom, and I was, talking to my mom about it, and I'm like, I just keep having these panic attacks. And she was like, well, why? And I was like, because I'm crying myself to sleep every night.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, and then I started like going to therapy again. I went to therapy sometimes as a kid. But so then, went to the doctor too, and I was like, maybe this is like autoimmune disorder stuff. Gave her my symptoms, and she's like, I think you're having seizures. And I was like, I was so over just this whole clinic, because gone to general practitioner, cardiologist, neurologist, rheumatologist, dietitian, like every kind
every
of
single
doctor.
thing, wow.
And I was just, and like cardiologist, I went to her because I was having heart palpitations. Saw a cardiologist, went a couple times, and then I had to see a new one because couldn't get an appointment with the other one. She was like, oh yeah, you're that's just because you're medicine. Like, I was so tired. I was diagnosed with narcolepsy because I was
about to ask, I was
Wait,
like, because you were
what?
falling asleep a lot. I was like,
Yes.
did you think that you were narcoleptic
Yes.
at some point?
So I don't think I'm like technically narcoleptic, but I did do a sleep study, and they have got, wires all over my head, and I fell asleep so like in REM sleep in like 2.5 minutes so quickly.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I like I'm like technically narcoleptic. Not like I'll fall asleep like from laughing, like whatever the other people do.
Well, it's just not, you mean it's like not as instant or like?
It's just that I was so tired that I like qualified as narcoleptic. So I was put on, and that was a whole journey.
And that was from your autoimmune stuff?
Just being
made you
so
that tired?
Yeah. Because your body it's breaking, like every part of your body is just breaking down. Like
My mind is
you have no
exploding
energy.
right now. I don't know how you walk right now, like at this point.
By the grace of God.
Come on, somebody.
Glory be to the Father.
Yeah. Please keep going.
Anyway.
We will go round and round.
So, okay, this is how I tell stories too. I'm like, okay, fast forward, rewind, pause, rewind, and then fast forward.
That's so good.
But yeah, so
I'm following along perfectly fine.
Yeah,
I feel like that's how I tell stories.
I'm going around.
Good. So the narcolepsy thing, which is funny about that, because of course with insurance, so you have to go through certain types of medication before you can actually get to like there's a whole list of medications you have to go through in a sequential order if you're trying to if one medication doesn't work and you want to move on to the next one. There's a specific one. So then
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. So it's insurance something. So basically they start you out on ADHD
Yeah, that makes
medication.
sense. So insurance companies get to decide whether or not you get to fully be healthy.
Right.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah. So
We won't get into
basically they put you on ADHD medication first, which makes sense. Like you're tired, you're trying to focus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't work for me. So then I was put on narcolepsy medication, and then it was giving me heart palpitations. So I went to the cardiologist. Then I saw another cardiologist, and she was like, well, yeah, you're getting heart palpitations because you're on narcolepsy medication. When your heart rate falls because you're falling asleep, the medication palpitates it, and it wakes you up. So it's like I spent 3 appointments going to another cardiologist who's trying to I was on a heart monitor for 2 weeks, and I had to wear 4 stickers on my chest and have a little thing connected to it and wear it in my back pocket all the time, all day, all night, for 2 weeks because of my medicine was giving me palpitations and my other doctor didn't realize
This is
it.
while you're in college.
This is high school still, actually.
This is still high school.
Rewind, yeah.
Wow.
Actually, this is I had just graduated high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're
and this is the funny thing too, is I was still running at the time a lot because I just graduated high school, so I was still a runner.
Yeah.
And so they had told me when they gave me the little box, that electric device that comes with it, if you work out, there's a button you can put it in here. That way we know, because there's people watching my heart rate 24/7. So that way we know why it spiked. So I was going on runs every day. Click the little button, just worked out, and then I would get a call immediately from the clinic. We noticed your heart rate went to 120 beats per minute out of nowhere. I was like, I was just running. And then when I got back and returned the device, they were like, you really gave us a run for our money. They were calling me every day, are you okay?
You're going to be all right. That's crazy.
But yeah, so yeah, that's why I was just so over this clinic.
Yeah.
Because
They're just taking you round and round.
Yeah, and there's easy answers, and they just weren't there. So
Yeah.
back to where we were, I was in college having these episodes, depressed, thought they were panic attacks. Told my rheumatologist, I don't know what this is, but maybe this is autoimmune stuff. Here are my symptoms. Google says they're panic attacks. That's the other thing. It's you come with a Google list, a WebMD list ready to tell them, and they'll test you for whatever you say because they're at a loss too almost.
Yeah.
It's okay, well, if you think that's it, we'll just test your blood for it.
Yeah.
I'm all right, fine. I want to know if it's that anyway.
Right.
So the doctor's I think those are seizures, and I was
At this point,
I
you're
was over it. I
Yeah.
was so done. And after that appointment, I just sat in my car and I just broke down. Not at all because I thought they were seizures. I was like, you've got to be kidding. You guys are leading me astray so
Seriously.
far.
Yeah.
Seizures, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then
I'd be
also
so
I'm kind
angry.
of I can't deal with seizures. Like, that can't happen.
Yeah.
And then I get home to my mom and I'm telling her, and of course I break down to her and she's like, I don't think that's true. And I was like, I don't either, but like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then I'm talking to, I think I just had like a check-in with my general practitioner. Told him what was going on and he's like, oh yeah, you just have anxiety. And I was like, okay. He's like, those are just panic attacks. I was like, okay. And so he gave me anxiety medication.
Right.
And so then I was kind of like apprehensive to take it because since getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, I'm a lot more holistic of a person. So I do not want to be on medication if I don't have to be. And I will be put on medication by doctors even if I don't have to be. And I've witnessed that.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's like the medication, and then you have to start taking medication for your medication for the side effects, and it's like I'm over that.
Yeah, it's just like a tree of medication.
Yeah,
Which is terrible.
It's terrible, and I don't want that in my body. Like,
No.
So anyway, he gives me anxiety pills, and I start taking them, and he gave me the lowest dose because I told him, I was like, I don't really like that idea. And he gave me 5 milligrams of Lexapro. Lexapro, everybody, write that down. I do not like it. And I've not heard good things about that.
No, dude,
medication.
I never hear anything good about Lexapro ever.
I don't really study meds, so I don't know what that is.
No. Anyway, so
You're
yeah.
good. You're not missing out.
Yeah. So he said the lowest he ever prescribes is 10 milligrams, and he gave me 5. And I was like, okay. Cool. I didn't get any directions on it. So I didn't know you can't quit like cold turkey. So I was on and off the medication and like, I don't know, just not being like real good with it. And then I was at work one day and I had that same feeling, like a panic attack. And it's a horrible feeling. You like completely check out, like you are not there. And it's like extreme tunnel vision to where like it really feels like you've got like goggles on like that. Like you can't see anything. The world is spinning. You get like such a weird deja vu. Rewind, actually.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'll continue. Sorry. Okay. Very weird feeling. You get weird deja vu that's like unexplained. You get like, you over salivate and you swallow a whole bunch of times, which is weird.
Yeah.
Those are the specific things that are seizures and not panic attacks because they are really close.
Okay.
I was at work and checking someone out. I worked at a spa. I was a receptionist, and I was having that feeling. I was like, I just have to get through this, and then I can sit down. I was like, I just have to get through this. And then I didn't get through it, and I ended up having a seizure right there. And I had no idea what happened because I had a seizure. Mm-hmm. But
and you fell out like type of deal.
Yeah, my poor manager is 6 months pregnant. I totally stiffened up. She had to catch me while I was falling.
Wow.
Dislocated my shoulder. Not dislocated, tore ligaments in my shoulder. I had a black eye. My ankle, like I turned it funky. It was hurting. But my rheumatologist that told me, I think that's seizures. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And she sent me to a neurologist. And the neurologist told me, this is of course before I had the seizure, was like, well, you're not going to catch anything on any kind of imaging unless you're actively seizing. And I don't treat panic disorder.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Said that to you. This is after that happened.
No. This is before the seizure.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
my rheumatologist was like, I think you're having seizures. And the thing that makes me so mad, because I told my rheumatologist, like, I over salivate, I have like this weird feeling. And those are the specific things that make a seizure different from a panic attack.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my neurologist definitely should have known that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't treat panic disorder, which is why I got on the anxiety medication, which in turn can cause seizures, especially if you're not taking it like...
It's made it worse then.
Right.
Yeah.
But nobody knew I was already prone to having seizures. Like if I didn't have... I think my grandma on my dad's side was medicated for epilepsy at one point. But this also kind of ties into my story. My dad is not around, so I don't know. And I think all of these things came from his side of the family.
Okay.
So that was a whole long story. But yeah, so autoimmune disorder, and now just recently within a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. So it's been a ride. And I'm going to be honest, never felt worse since being diagnosed with epilepsy. Like autoimmune stuff, I'm like, I'll take that every day over epilepsy. Because it's like, epilepsy, you have absolutely no control whatsoever, which is almost like helpful because it's like, can't control it. So like, what am I going to do about it? But it's also like, oh my gosh, I have no control whatsoever. Right. Yeah. So yeah, it was I went to the hospital. I couldn't tell them my birthday. I had no idea what was going on. Like I had a backpack with my stuff in it, and they kept trying to get me up on the stretcher, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to hospital. I'm not going to. And I think that's like a common thing when people have a seizures. They're very like rebellious, so to say, because it's like, you have, what do you mean I just had a seizure?
Yeah,
like I literally just woke up. Nothing happened. But yeah, and I just remember them saying like, it's okay. Like, I guess when I finally came to, they were like, it's okay. You just had a seizure. You're confused. And I like, for some reason, I remember how my face was. And I just remember being like,
what are you talking about?
But anyway, I was in the hospital I stayed overnight one night, and there's so much that I do not remember. And so many scans I had to do. And because like initially I told them just my ankle hurt. So they did an x-ray on my ankle, and my ankle, nothing was wrong with it. And it felt fine when I left. So I don't really know. I don't really remember me telling them it hurt. And then I was like going to be discharged kind of soon. And the neurologist was there, and he's like, is there anything else? And I was like, my shoulder like actually really hurts. And it was my left shoulder, and I had the IV in my right arm. So like trying to move, I like couldn't put my body weight on any limb. So I was like trying to like scooch around in the bed. Oh my God. and then they were like, well, we'll do an MRI, which those are the worst. I don't know if you guys have had.
I've never had to have an MRI.
They're the worst.
Aren't they like super long?
They are, and
they're
loud. They're loud, and it's like this close to your face.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
So you cannot move. So they stuffed my shoulder in some kind of like thing, mold type of thing, and I just had to sit there. And it's like, and you're like in the thing. It's not like it's just your head. You're like your body is in the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen what it looks like, but I've never had it.
And thankfully, I was like, my memory's very like shady at that point. So like, I don't really remember it, but I remember being like, I have to literally count sheep right now. Like I was counting and watching numbers in my head because I was like, I can't. And luckily, I was like. Unluckily, I was not doing well. So I was so tired. So I just ended up falling asleep in there. Yeah. All that to say, autoimmune disorder, epilepsy, and after epilepsy is when I started getting like extreme anxiety. Just like after getting out of the hospital, just like tears, like all the time, like out of nowhere, because it's scary. Yeah. Couldn't drive for 6 months, which is also like, so I didn't, the one thing I didn't realize was like, I needed my music in the car when I was driving. I did not have music playing. And I didn't realize until I like turned on a speaker one day and just kind of listened to music in my house. Like I've been missing music. Like that's what's been so hard about not driving is music. So then when I learned that, it was a lot easier. I just put a speaker on. It kind of made me feel better, but so unfreeing. I felt like I was like in prison in my head, basically, just because I was so unfree, so like
trapped.
Yeah. So craziness. Wow. And then so the reason that anti-anxiety medication can cause those things is because emotion is what ultimately causes all of these things. And that's what causes seizures. So when I was first packing up to move, that was a big emotional thing. And that's when I had the very first seizure. They're called focal seizures. When you actually convulse, it's called a grand mal seizure, which is what I went to the hospital for. Okay. These focal seizures, you're still very disoriented afterward. I would go into work and be like, I've been working here for 6 months, a year. Am I sure that's her name? Like, did I just call her the right name? Just because you're so disoriented.
Yeah.
So after that, obviously I'm scared after being in the hospital for that. And it was just so like debilitating, like honestly debilitating. And just, emotionally wrecking. And so the medication that I was on is known to like cause just bad moods, like anxiety, aggression, anger, just moodiness. And I just had such bad anxiety. So I ended up changing my medication. The one I'm on now is actually a bipolar medication. It's in small doses. It's used to treat bipolar disorder. Higher dosage, it's an anticonvulsant, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's a mood stabilizer,
Right. Yeah.
which also moods tie into epilepsy and all that stuff. So that was a very long explanation. But epilepsy, autoimmune disorder, anxiety.
Wow.
Those are the ailments.
And so,
Well, I mean,
those are the ailments.
I loved it. That was awesome.
The way that you talk about it is interesting because how you kind of go all over the place, which like makes sense because like that's what you felt like.
Yes.
Like legit, like that's what you felt like.
But it helps. I mean, you're bringing us on the journey along with you and you're explaining it, so it's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
I like the way that you explained it all.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, first things
Yeah, it was
first.
perfect.
First things first. Before we dive into any questions or anything like that, your feelings on that clinic and all those different things that you went through. You know, people listening, watching at home, still go to the doctor, but like
Yeah.
do your research.
Yeah.
Do your research. Like do your own
And I don't think there's a
research.
problem, honestly, with going to the doctor and being like, I've done this so many times.
Yeah,
like,
no problem with
Google
that.
says this, and I don't really mind when they're like, okay, well, we'll just test you for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay,
Because
peace of mind.
just like we all do in our jobs, like we go through the motions, and I'm sure that there are times where doctors are going through the motions and they're like, your symptoms sound very similar to this girl that I treated, 5 minutes ago, and she has generalized anxiety disorder, so like we'll go with that. You know what I mean? I'm sure, whatever. I'm not gonna go there, but
Yeah.
So throughout this entire journey, you were a Christ follower pretty much your entire life. Grew up starting in the Catholic Church mostly. And then, throughout your life became more of an evangelical Christian, different things like that, yada, yada. We don't have to go into all that. Where, and you can be as honest as you want to, whenever you started on the journey with your autoimmune disorder, like where was your faith at that point?
It was much less than it is now.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't I believed in God. I knew he was there. That is the one thing that's always been constant. That does not matter how hard things get. I know he's still there. But when I was going through all these things, because this is part of the thing I told in my songs and stories, is like, long story short, my dad and my mom and dad got divorced when I was 2. Last time I saw my dad, I was 4. So, and my mom, she didn't really date. And if she did, she didn't bring any guys around us, a date or two here and there. But behind her back's quote, just because we were kids, she doesn't want to introduce other people to us. And so she was single for 15 years. So I grew up with, and she is so strong. And this is the part that's going to make me cry because, hang on.
You're good.
It's okay.
Just the love that she gave us.
Yeah.
Hang on.
You're all right. Take your time.
But she's just so strong.
Yeah.
So growing up with that and just learning how to be so independent and just want to be like her so badly.
Yeah.
Hang on. I was fighting for myself, and that was fine.
Yeah.
I knew how to do it. I was learning from her.
Yeah.
And then having an autoimmune disorder and no control whatsoever. I'm like, my mom can't help me with this either. I'm as strong as I can be right now.
Yeah.
And then I realized I told my best friend April, who always went to church, and anytime I was at her house, we had to go to, if I spent the night and it was a Sunday, we had to go to church, you know. I was like, okay, I need help. I can't do this on my own. And I told her, I want to start going to church. So it my faith really started because I started having health issues.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a good thing.
Dude, God is wild.
Yeah.
He is. Like, I'm going to tell our story on another episode, so I won't get too far into it, but my faith dramatically changed when because for those of you guys who don't know, we are brothers. But when our family fell apart, and my faith dramatically changed for the better when the worst possible thing that could have ever happened to us. And so God's crazy like that. Like it's the taking away of control that you think that you have of your life and giving it 100% to him, that your faith elevates. And so for you at that time, because I didn't really know you then, you knew my wife, which is wild. Let's step back for just a minute. So on the first episode, we talked about all of our people on our lead team, and I told everybody that Sarah was this really scary monster.
She kind of is, though.
Which she is not a scary monster. I
just cried.
I was just afraid of her because
I feel like I can come off like
not even that.
Like I can look unapproachable sometimes. That's how I feel. Like I've actually had a lot of people be like, "Oh, you're not like how I thought you would be."
Well, I don't know that I would say that. I would just say like I just didn't know you. I didn't know anything about you other than what Savannah had told me about you, which was always only ever positive things. I just didn't know you, and so it just made it just I don't know what it was, but when like throughout high school and throughout those things that you were going through, like you were, very close with Savannah, my wife, and she didn't even know that any of those things were going on because you didn't really tell anybody. Because
here's the thing is like, kind of also goes back into like my whole journey with God. I was just so afraid to tell people because I did not want pity, because after my family found out, every time I saw family, how are you doing? Oh. I'm like, I'm fine. Like, stop asking me that. And it was the same, like, and it's the same thing about, like, just needing to be strong all the time. It was like, well, if I tell people, like, I have this thing, then, like, the pity, I'm not strong anymore, which is fine. Like, it's literally fine. I think that's one of the things, too, with, like, kind of a stereotype of believers. I think that non-believers and believers think about believers as like, don't you believe in God? Like, aren't you supposed to be fine? Like, you literally said that, like, God provides and, like, everything's perfect with God. And so I can see how, like, a non-believer might be like, how is that happening if you believe in God?
Right.
Yeah.
But, and I think same thing within the Christian community. It's like, sometimes we're so scared. We preach about, like, brokenness and it's okay to be broken, but I think sometimes, like, nobody wants to show that part.
Yeah.
So
no one wants to show I feel like there's two extremes. I think you're 100% right. I think most people, you don't want to show your scars. You don't want to show your wounds. Then there's the opposite, where some people want to bleed on everybody, where everything about your life is so difficult and so hard, and you tell everybody about it. Like, you have to find that middle ground of, like, you have those people that you share those things with. But I do agree with you. I think that Christians really struggle with being open about those things, which is like, we're supposed to walk this life together, and if anything, I feel like believers were supposed to understand that all of us are broken. All of us have garbage. All of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But yet we don't act like that towards each other, and we don't treat each other in that way. And we don't trust others with our stuff like we should. And that's a whole other, conversation, but it's like, I'm just thinking of, like, with every conversation that we've had up to this point about, like, these different journeys, like, I try to put myself into the shoes of the person that was going through it. And I don't know how you're sitting here right now. Like I genuinely don't. And I don't say that to be melodramatic. I don't say that to I genuinely don't understand.
Me neither, to be honest.
And it only has to be God, right?
Right, yeah.
Like legitimately because of, and all of this is fairly recent.
Yeah, since I was 17, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Math.
But even like with the seizure stuff, you said that's like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like post-COVID.
Yeah.
Like, are we allowed to say post-COVID? Is that allowed?
Are we post-COVID?
I mean,
whatever.
Maybe not politically.
We're in Florida,
Yeah.
and Florida's just
Yeah.
crapped on because of our beliefs
Yeah.
about things. So whatever. That's another podcast. But
that's not the Two Bulls with Guac podcast.
no, it's
Yeah,
not.
right.
It's the Jake Stutzman by himself, just ranting.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. Like,
Well, and my favorite, this is why I love talking about this topic so much, is because what I just said, people like to believe that because you believe in God, you're fine, which is not the truth.
yeah,
And also, yes, keep preaching on, brokenness, because
Yeah.
it is okay, and you can find peace and wholeness within God. But also, I think, we're not supposed to be, of the world. This is not our home, right?
Right.
But he does give us earthly things to help us go home. So, therapy.
yeah.
I think it's so hard for people to admit that they need help, and it's literally fine. Therapy, I love just being I have therapy to go to. Oh no, I can't have a therapy appointment.
Yeah.
Because who cares?
Yeah.
Literally, who cares?
Yeah. People hide it. People
Yeah.
are, yeah. I dated a girl for a little while who was very much like that, where she did not want to, she's very different now. However, at the time when it was new and it was fresh, she was very much she didn't want to tell anybody she was going to therapy. She didn't want to tell anybody that she had a massive anxiety disorder. She didn't want to tell anybody anything, and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody anything either because she was embarrassed by it. And I'm like, you didn't do it to yourself.
Yeah.
I just don't fully understand that. I have my things and different things like that, but I just think about life differently, which I'll talk about in another episode. But it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Which is a super cliche statement, but it is.
Yeah.
It's super fine to not be fine.
Yeah.
As believers, I just think that it's so backwards if you are just quiet. It's so backwards. So for that being said, being vulnerable is it's got to be one of your priorities. And saying, and with people that will tell me, how you're saying, you should be fine because you believe in God. My rebuttal to that is well, I'm not perfect, because if I'm perfect, then God can't move at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's also highs and lows in everything, and you have to learn to appreciate the lows just as much as you appreciate the highs. And just being vulnerable is such a big piece in all of that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
And it's when you are feeling that just broken, I hearing Ben and Kristen's stuff yesterday, hearing Kristen talk about how she's on her knees. I've had so many nights like that, on my knees, begging, something has to change.
Yeah.
But it's when I'm feeling that way, there's a very slim chance I'm going to hear God, because all I'm hearing is how I'm not okay. I can't do this, right? So that's why we do have things like therapy or, the church and our Christian friends to kind of be the voice sometimes when we can't hear it. So that's why, yes, pray. You can't do it, pray. You have to pray about it. You have to pray about everything, not just because you're not doing well. You had a good day, pray about your good day. Thank you, God. But there are other things too that can help you here on the earth, which is, I think, this might sound controversial, but I think we are stuck a little bit too much in we'll just pray about it. Because if you're not listening, that's going to do nothing for you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you will think that you're listening, but you're not.
You're hearing yourself.
Sometimes you just can't listen because you're so overwhelmed. So your brain is just saying 50,000 things at once, and you need some sort of earthly outlet that's like right in front of you. So I guess but therapy would definitely be one of those outlets. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. As humans, I think we adopt the knowledge of did you try to turn it off and back on again?
Did you put it in rice?
Yeah. Did you put it in rice?
Did you put it in
Where
rice?
it's like,
I like that.
something's broken, and so it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like, do my own self-therapy, and a lot of times that can lead to things much worse, but let's not go there, but let's just talk about, okay, I just need to sit and binge Netflix for the day, and then I'll feel better tomorrow. I need to take a 4-hour nap, and I'll feel better. I need to eat and feel better, and whatever that is that might make you feel better initially. It's that when you call tech support and you're like, have you tried turning it off and back on again? Like that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Like, you need your rest. You need to find your things that recharge you. But whenever it comes to how important things like, I feel like I would be not the person to talk about therapy because I'm very scared to go to therapy because I'm afraid of my own emotions.
Yeah. It takes a long time. I've been to therapy and I've had several therapists, and I have another friend who lives in California, and she has a lot of the same mental health issues that I do.
Shout out.
And yeah. And hearing about, 'cause she's been in therapy for a long time, and hearing about some of the things that she says in therapy, I'm like, oh yeah, you can literally say that because they legally cannot tell anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does it matter that you just told them whatever you just told them, and not at all being like, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, yeah.
But I was like that, and I had a few therapists be like, wow, I'm talking a lot and you're not talking at all. And I'm like, yeah. But now I'm like word vomit every time I go.
It's like, let me tell you everything. Here we go. Like,
oh my gosh. But yeah.
Did
they ever get annoyed with that? Like,
I don't care.
No, I mean, I'm just asking. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I'm just asking because, like, I don't think I could ever be a therapist.
No.
Yeah.
It's I feel like it'd be so difficult.
I have a friend of mine who I used to work with who now we worked together while he was in college to become a family therapist, and he does it now. And I was on a podcast with him about a year ago, and he was walking through some different things about like men's mental health, and I was on a podcast talking about that. And like I literally said when we cut, I was like, I don't know how you do what you do, because I can't even hold my emotions together and figure out my own stuff. I don't know how you figure out everybody else's stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just wild to me. And the answer that he gave back was so interesting about the fact that like he's not figuring out other people's stuff for them. He's just walking people through a conversation so that then they can reveal to themselves what it is that they actually feel. Yeah. And then from there, he can treat that. And so I need to go to therapy. Like I just do. I think everybody says everybody needs it.
Yeah,
right?
Nothing has to be wrong.
I don't think that I think the word needs therapy is probably the wrong word, but I do believe that everybody can benefit from therapy.
From therapy. Mm-hmm. That's a much better statement. Yeah, everybody can benefit from therapy.
Because it's like, if you tell somebody they need therapy, they're going to be all defensive. They're going to hate that and be like, I don't need therapy. Blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to give you 8,000 reasons on why they're not going to go do it. And then they're not going to go do it. So.
Yeah. Because that's how I felt for a long time. Like, I feel like I'm getting to a place where I don't know. I'm not going to make any promises on camera. But I'm... Say it right here, please.
Jake said.
Jake said on this date at this time. But I think you're 100% right about the things that God has put here on earth and the blessings that he's given to people to be able to walk you through your brokenness. And I think, yeah, not to repeat everything that you just said, but I think that you're just 100% right of like, yes, prayer is important, but only praying isn't going to fix anything. Mm-hmm. You know, Ben talked about it on the last episode about how even for him, whenever he was going to AA, like he had to do even more than that. Like that's why he stepped into Celebrate Recovery, and that was what was the massive change for him, is him getting that closer relationship with God and having those accountability partners along with all of the other stuff as well whenever he was walking through his substance abuse stuff. And so like once he steps into Celebrate Recovery and those different types of things, like that's what kind of changed it for him. And so like keep searching and finding that thing, because just sitting in your room praying, there's more than likely God is smacking you in the face with like, hey, do this. But you're just not, and you're just praying, for what? Just to sit there, like he's going to fix you like that. Yeah. It just doesn't work like that. Like you have to put in the effort.
It's like, God help me, and God's going, here's your help, and you're just like, I don't want that help. And then
you're
like,
but no, you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like that help, cycle. I don't like that help. I want you to give me different help. Yeah.
No, I'm going to ask for more.
Yeah. On that somewhat of the same subject, I want to jump into our scripture recommendation because I feel like it ties together very well with your story. And it's funny, you texted me today and you were like, hey, I was going over everything, and it's hilarious because I was literally going to talk about this.
Yeah.
So the scripture recommendation that we're going to talk about, or that I was going to talk about, but we're all going to talk about, is putting on the full armor of God and what that actually looks like. And for some people who maybe are seasoned Christians are like already tuned out because they're like, I've heard this so many times, like, okay, I get it, helmet salvation, I get it. But like, I've been a Christian my entire life.
Sorry. Time for me to take my seizure medication.
That is amazing. Let's go. Everybody will know.
Yeah, okay,
Take
guys.
it. Here we go.
I'm going to actually teach you guys about OCD.
Come on.
So, here is a Monday through Friday, night and day pill case. Okay, so today's Thursday night.
Sarah,
2 pills.
She's also 46.
Let's be extremely quiet while she takes her pills.
Here's what actually happens with OCD is because I'm not even kidding. Like my therapist just like confirmed it. It's like, okay, here's how we treat OCD. Because it is not just like being neat and tidy. It's like that thing when my head hits the pillow every single night, as soon as I close my eyes, I'm like, nope, I know I took my medicine. I'm going to have it on camera, but when I go to bed, I'm going to check my pill case just to make sure they're gone.
Sure.
And I will check it so many times. I'll take pictures of them on my tongue because if I take picture in my hand, I could have just, whoop.
True.
I would not do that with my pills.
Yeah.
But like, okay.
Well, while you're doing that, let's. I want to talk specifically about this, and I didn't necessarily pick this subject to talk about with your story, but I feel like it fits so well together. So, specifically talking about the full armor of God, you and I just recently started going to the same church, and we won't say what church it is, we just don't need to, but love them. Like no, like not.
Just
we're
in
not.
case.
Yeah. You never know. So we listened to the same sermon a couple weeks ago that talked about the armor of God and the importance of it and how the way that we think about it may have not been right up until now. In Ephesians chapter 6. Starting in verse 11, it just says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. And then it goes on to talk about, each part of the armor. Something that was taught in this sermon that I heard from, I'm going to say who said it because he is such an incredible man of God, Kevin Jack. Is a pastor of a church here in town, and he spoke this. He gave this amazing sermon that I'm fully convinced. Like some people come and they like preach a sermon, and you can tell like this is 100% like from them, and like not 100% from God. Like you could just tell. I'm fully convinced that God took hold of him in that moment, and like anything that was on his iPad to read that day, maybe 5 lines of it got said, and God just went to town. He said this specific thing about the armor, and he talked about the fact that the armor that we put on is what is anointed. When people talk about being anointed by God and different things like that to do different things, whether it's worship, whether it's preaching the word, whether it's, whatever that might be, you, me, Jake, you, Luke, you, Sarah, your bodies, as my friend Jesse Lowry says, your earth suits are not what is anointed. Right? These are just earth suits, right? Our spirit lives within them. And that's a whole theological conversation we won't get into. But our spirits are what lives within them.
Right.
When we put on the armor, that is what God has anointed, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we put that on, and we go into quote unquote battle, we go into the world and we fight for the gospel, and we fight this earthly battle, like we have to put our armor on, right? We have to.
Yeah.
Because if we go in without it, we cannot fight the battles that we have been given.
Correct.
And we were talking about it before the podcast about that statement that people say, and I'll let you say it and let you go into it. But
yeah, I was actually talking with my mom, breaking down to her one day, and she was like, basically like, God or people say like, God only gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and that you can, anything he gives you, you can handle, which is wrong because I cannot handle this.
Yeah.
So just reading that, it made me realize that like we are a soldier of his. Mm-hmm. We are not the strongest. Mm-hmm. Otherwise we would probably be on the cross, right?
Yeah.
We are not the strongest, and we can only be stronger with his armor on us.
Yes.
Going through the battles.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that statement gets said a lot. It gets said a lot by everyone, believers, non-believers, is, God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And in fact, I literally saw somebody post that the other day, somebody who I know as a strong believer. And I'm like, no, like, that's just not it. Because if we could handle it, right? If like, who needs God? If we can handle it, and we have the ability to handle it, as long as we, as long as we're like seasoned in life, and we have, have gone through certain things, now we're stronger because of it. And so we can handle all these other things. If we could do that, there'd be no need for God. There just wouldn't be. And I just am fully, I fully believe that you cannot walk through some of these things that life hands you without them. Like, you just can't, without putting that armor on. Like, you just can't. And while it might not be necessarily a physical armor, it's, it's that mental picture of an armor, of putting on the helmet, putting on the breastplate, putting on the belt, putting on the shoes, carrying the sword. Like, it is, like, it's so important to walk through life with that armor on. We're about to sing songs about it. It's probably, I don't know if it'll be out by the time this pod comes out, but we're recording this weekend and leading worship at Celebrate Recovery this weekend. And this series called Battleground, with this notion that the battle's already been won. Yeah. God's won the battle, and he's given you the keys. He's given you the armor to go ahead and win the battle. And we are still like, no, I don't like that one. I don't like that color. Like, I want my armor to be pink. And it's like, but for real, like it's maybe not literally that, but I feel like that's just how we think about it. And one of the things that Kevin was talking about in his in his sermon that he talked about it was the fact that you never don't need your armor. You never don't outgrow your armor. You also can't give your armor to somebody else. God has fitted armor specifically for you. Yeah. So in the scripture, when I don't know if it's specifically in here, but I believe it's Paul is giving his armor to somebody else. And you should not do that. Like, at no point should you give up your armor to give to somebody else, because they have theirs. You just have to show them how to put it on. Sometimes you have to walk them through how to put it on. And sometimes that's just having yours on. And then they realize, it's like if you go to a toga party and you don't have a toga on. It's like, man, I should put a toga on. It's like you go to a God's Armor party and you're just in a t-shirt and shorts. And you're like, man, I really should have worn my armor. And sometimes that's what you need. And man, like, and with your story specifically, like, I feel like while, especially getting to know you over this past year, like, you are a true example of having your armor on, because you have to, because you literally have ailments in your life that you cannot control, like legitimately can't control. Like, legitimately, like, your body's just attacking itself and you're just like, here. And doing a podcast right now. And inside of your body, it's killing itself. And you are here full of faith And the only way that you can do that is by having your armor on, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's just cool. That's just awesome. Like, it's awesome. So, yeah. I mean, unless you had anything else specific that you wanted to go into, I think that's it. I think we ended on that.
Yeah. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Pray, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Put your armor on.
Yeah. Pray, go to therapy, and put your armor on. If you didn't get anything out of this podcast, it's pray, go to therapy.
Take your medication.
Take your medication.
Set your reminders. Check your pill case.
Do your research.
Yes.
Do your research.
And put your dang armor on,
And
man.
put your dang armor on, man.
Just every day, ask yourself, do you have your armor? And if it's a yes, put it on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it should always be yes, but like you gotta put it on.
Put it the heck on, dude.
Yeah, put it on, dude. Take it out the closet and put it on. Like,
Start
let's go.
with the helmet if you want, you know?
Yeah. Start where it doesn't matter where you start. Just put it on.
I mean, I like to start with the helmet. It's cool.
Yeah, it's dope. It's awesome.
My helmet
Yeah.
looks
The way that I think about it is like when I roll out of bed, it's like I like press a button and then like it's like an Iron Man suit.
Yeah,
Jake is
for
Iron Man.
sure. Yeah.
Anyways, all right.
Jake
Well,
talks to his house and his house does things for him.
It
so he's Iron Man.
does.
okay. We're not gonna talk about this.
I've broken those things.
Yes, you have. We're not talking about this. It
I
doesn't
turned off
matter.
a light switch without using Alexa, and I was in trouble.
let's okay. This is not Bully Jake. All right. Anyways, guys, well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to Sarah for being so brave and sharing your story. It was amazing, and I truly think that your story is going to impact many. I really, really do.
Nice.
Thanks to Luke for joining us and hanging out with us. We're going to hear more of his story here in a couple weeks, which is going to be great. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us and listening. Whether if you're listening to any of the on any of the podcast platforms or whatever, if you're watching us on YouTube, please be sure to follow us on all social medias at SurroundedW on Instagram, and check us out on Facebook as well. We post like full-length videos and stuff like that on there. We do have a TikTok coming soon. Maybe we'll see if we get that figured out at some point. That'll be fun to do once we get that going.
Nice.
And don't forget that every other Saturday we worship together on youtube.com/surrounded worship. We love you guys, and we will see you guys next time.